Welcome to this episode of Security Market Watch, where we talk to industry leaders, CEOs, founders, and we bring their stories to you. Very often, we think about the product, we think about the information, the technical side of security. You know, these are the stories of the people who are making the world go round, who make security go round. And today, my guest is Tina Williams-Koroma. She is the CEO and co-founder of T-Secure and CyDeploy. Did I get that right?
Yes,
All right,
absolutely.
great. Tina, welcome to Security Market Watch. It's great to have you on the show. You've been here before, so you're not a new face to Security Market Watch. And for those who are listening or watching this right now, check out that episode where we talked to Tina. I think it was maybe 3 or 4 episodes ago. It was last season, last year, however you want to call it. And, that was a great conversation. You should go check it out. So today, we really just want to get to know you a little bit more, Tina. We've heard of your product, CyDeploy. We've heard of T-Secure. You touched a little bit on your time at Lockheed Martin and, your journey from going from the, working for Lockheed Martin all the way through running your own business and your own startup. And I mean, it's a fabulous story. I'm sure is dying to hear your story. So with that, welcome to the show. And let's start before Lockheed Martin, right? A young Tina Williams-Koroma. Maybe at that time you weren't Tina Williams-Koroma yet. Maybe you weren't married yet. What was that time like, and what pushed you into the direction and onto the journey that you're on now?
Yeah, so first, thanks so much for having me back again. And I'm looking forward to our discussion today. So, yeah, before Lockheed, certainly it was a college experience for me. And I got to that college, I learned about it through a high school internship that I'd done. So the high school internship was me giving computers a second try. I had taken a programming class in my sophomore year of high school. It was Pascal programming, to date myself a bit. And I decided, oh no, this computer stuff is not for me. This is boring. I don't want to do this. And I decided I was going to go into physical therapy. But then, unfortunately, I was a basketball player and a soccer player. So during a basketball game, I tore my ACL and I had to spend a lot of time in a physical therapist's office. And that told me that I do not want to be a physical therapist for my life. So when I did the summer internship after my junior year, that was me giving computers a second try. And that's when I actually learned about the University of Maryland, Baltimore County and the Meyerhoff Scholars Program that they had. And so that's where I went in undergrad and I majored in computer science. So my whole world started to become, from a professional perspective, to be focused on computers. So that's the origin story leading up to my first full-time job with Lockheed Martin after I finished with my undergrad studies.
So you weren't into computers. Then you said, okay, I'm not going to do the computer thing. I'm going to focus on physical therapy. And then you came full circle right back to computers.
Right back.
So how does that happen? How do you turn off that switch that goes, this is boring, and then turn on the switch that says this is fun?
Yeah, I think a lot of it was, and this is the value that I think that there really is in internships, and then also the type of program that I got into, which was a rotational leadership program at Lockheed Martin. The ability to try stuff out, right? Even when you say computers, that's so broad, right? There's so many different aspects. And ultimately, I decided that while computer programming wasn't necessarily something that I wanted to do my entire career, cybersecurity really was. And, even that story for me, I watched the movie The Net with Sandra Bullock. And I saw her on the beach with her computer, and I was like, "What field is she in?" And that was kind of the shaping for cybersecurity. But the internship that I had after my junior year in high school was really just another type of exposure to computers and technology. And that, I think, was one of the first times in which I was like, okay, this technology field surrounding computers is not just one option or just one thing that I could potentially do, right? So after I did that internship, it was like, okay, this is really cool. Plus, I was surrounded by a lot of other really, cool high school students, if I could categorize myself as that. So that was a lot of fun just to say, hey, it doesn't have to be necessarily like a lonely, sort of field. And so then I took another coding class my senior year in high school, and that was pretty cool. That was C++. So even the language itself was more fun than the prior language of Pascal that I took. So I think that just trying stuff out and having the opportunity to try things out through internships and rotational programs is really beneficial. I found it to be a great asset. That way you're not just dumping the whole thing and just saying, I don't like it, when you haven't really given it much of a chance. Yeah.
So you got to give it a chance. That's the key
Yes.
there. Now, I noticed you've got a couple of posters in your background here. If you're listening to
Yes.
this, you can't see it, but if you're watching, I'm a little bit curious about Our Father's Business. What's
Right.
the story behind that poster?
Yeah, yeah. So I authored that book. That was probably about a 10-year project where I picked it up, put it down, picked it up, put it down. But there's this scripture in the book of Luke in the Bible, and it's where Jesus, Yeshua, has stayed behind from his parents who went on. So he stayed behind teaching in the temple. And, one of the things, that he said during that time is, why is it that you're looking for me? Don't you know I must be about my Father's business? And so really for me, when I'm approaching life and where I should spend my time, it's every time you make a decision about how you're going to spend your time, you're basically making a decision about what you're trading your life for and what you're willing to trade your life for. And so Our Father's Business is really a look at the life of Christ through the lens. The book of Luke really looks at Christ's life as a human being versus, his divine nature per se. And so it really is like a parallel of how did Christ conduct his life in being about his Father's business, and how can we as well conduct our lives on purpose, being about God's business and making sure we get done on this earth what we've been destined and purpose and assigned to do. So
So
that's that book.
so you take what you do very seriously.
I
I mean,
do. I
that's
do.
really what you're saying in a nutshell. I heard somebody say the other day that I'm trading my life force for money. You
Mhm.
have to trade money. You're trading energy for money. So whatever you're doing better be worth it,
Better be
right?
worth it. Yes.
Exactly. So
Yes.
that's what you're saying in a
Yes.
nutshell. Is that was okay? So
Yes.
all right. So let's pivot over to that. What was the call to adventure? What was the moment? Was there something that said, Tina, maybe it was the voice of God. You should you should leave Lockheed Martin and start your own company. What was that moment like?
Yeah, so I think it's something that was always, entrepreneurship has just always been something that's been a part of me. My first entrepreneurial vision was when I was 7 years old. And that was really around seeing an opportunity for creativity. So when I was seven, my dad was on this military base, this Air Force base, and there was this golf course that was on the base, and there was also this dirty little creek area near my house. And I was, little tomboy as I was always playing in the dirt, getting dirty and all that kind of stuff. And I would see all these golf balls, and I'm like, these golfers are not coming down here to get these balls. I was like, so we could bring that to them. And so my first business venture idea, formal one, was to wash off the golf balls and sell them back with lemonade. So I got my whole little crew, and one Saturday we made about $20, and so it's like kid rich, right, at
Yeah.
that time. And I was like, oh, this is neat. So I think just that after that it was, I had a babysitting business, pet sitting. I would use our home dot matrix printer, pull off the perforated lines. I'm dating myself again, and post these posters all over the military base we'd be on. And yeah, that was, I learned stakeholder management with the pet sitting, my parents being the primary stakeholders. We'd have these strangers' dogs in our houses. They'd scratch and whine, keep my parents awake. They were like, no, no, we're not doing this anymore. So, that business was open and shut pretty quick. But yeah, I think I always had like an entrepreneurial bent. And so I've had a lot of different forays with entrepreneurship, right? And really impact. Ultimately, my focus is on community impact, being a great example. I can help mentor and get people as far as I've gone. So throughout my career, no matter what I've been doing in my career, there's always this element of mentoring, having conversations, letting people know how they can get into cybersecurity, how they can get into entrepreneurship, how to start a business. And so for me, I think one of the greatest ways in which to have social impact is through business. I remember a college discussion that I had with at least one of my college buddies, and that was around, how do you think you can impact the world, greatest? Through politics or through business. And where we really settled was business, right? You have such an opportunity
Mhm.
through entrepreneurship and through business, and providing opportunities for others. And so that's a big part of my why, right? So it was always a matter of time and like, okay, when am I gonna, not if I'm going to be a full-time entrepreneur and venturer, but when. And so it was just, I was biding my time, learning, doing really good on as I worked for other people. So I worked for other people the way I want people to work for me, right? Like, because I think you definitely reap what you sow. So I always had in mind that if I want other people working for and taking care of my baby or venture well, then I want to do that now. So that was always in my mind, working at Lockheed, working at Unisys, working at another small business before I started my full-time services company, T-Secure. So yeah, that's kind of the origin story, I guess, in terms of my start in full-time entrepreneurship.
So the call to adventure really was the adventure of entrepreneurship, which I'm hearing that call came at an early age, and you sort of just
Yes.
kept saying yes to it. Yes, yes, yes,
Yes.
yes, yes, yes.
Hmm.
But hey, sometimes people say no. Sometimes people say no
Yes.
to the call, and they have
Yep.
to, like Jonah. If you're familiar with the Bible, so Jonah refused the call, and we all know
Yep.
what happened to him. He ended up in
Yep.
the belly of a fish, and so thank God he didn't end up in the belly of a fish. He wound up
Right,
here
right.
on the Security Market Watch podcast, which I don't know which is worse, but we'll roll with it. So it
I'll
sounded
take
like
the latter for sure.
great, good answer. So it seems like you've answered the call, and with every adventure, there are going to be tribulations, there are going to be challenges. So, what are some of the challenges that you faced in starting your own business and in this iteration of starting your own company?
Yeah, I definitely, certainly there's a lot of overlap and similarities no matter what kind of company you're starting, right? Like there's some commonalities, but certainly there's a lot of differences as well with regard to a services business and a product business. So, with services, that was, largely bootstrapped, no, investment money and things like that. And so, day one, profitable, right? Like, so my mindset just around personal finances and around business finances is around profitability.
Mm.
Right? And so it's somewhat different when you think of like a product where it's, you don't have a thing to sell yet to get revenue, and yet you need to spend a certain amount of money to get and build that thing to sell, right? Like, so very different concept, a very, steep learning curve around investment and, venture capital and angels and, pro formas and discussions of speaking to a future with a specificity that it's very difficult to have when you're starting. Like, how much money will you be making in 5 and 10 years? Like, oh, so certainly, just a steep learning curve in that regard, right? You're kind of getting to know the language, the flow of, external capital and the like. While also trying to focus on the product itself. So while I have a very technical background, I trying to do fundraising, establish the vision and the focus and do the market research and things like that. Plus, keep an eye on like the product and the development. It was very challenging, and I think put us behind a bit, product wise, just because when I turned back around to like look more closely, from product, it was like, wait, what is this? Which if I had been more detailed, hands-on, involved, in providing greater direction. I would have caught stuff earlier. And so, that was around, that helped shape the decision to, bring in like a co-founder that could do that. So looking back in my network. So I think that, that's a part of the challenge is just, how long and how much can I do this on my own? Though, I am very experienced from a business perspective, in running a profitable company. Things are very different, with product. And so, just sort of trying to apply what I already know, but then at the same time, um, giving myself enough space and latitude to have to lean into a steep learning curve and knowing when I need to bring in some additional help and assistance
And
to
that
get
support
things
system is
forward.
critical. That support
Yes,
system is, I mean, there's a reason why in every story the hero has a bunch of friends that roll with him. I mean,
yes,
Timon and Pumbaa, you can
yes,
really, Bagheera
yes.
and what's his name? I don't know, the Panther and the bear in Jungle Book. I mean,
Right,
that's your
right.
team,
Yes,
right? Those are the people around you. Those are your
yes,
ride or dies, right? And so
yes.
it, your what you're saying echoes what every other founder and CEO has said. It's not
Yeah.
easy, and you got to be a little bit of a glutton for punishment. But that's the job. That's the job. You overcome, and so you've overcome time and time and time again, and I have no doubt that you'll continue to do so. So, when you're all done with your overcoming and your successes, and you've done everything that you want to do, you leave. What is the legacy that you want to leave behind? How do you want to be remembered in this field?
Gosh, I want to be remembered as someone that just provided a great open door and opportunity and set so many other people up for success in cybersecurity and in entrepreneurship. I really that's the legacy that I want to leave. I think that cybersecurity is such an important field and just protects so many important aspects, our very way of life, right? Which is why critical infrastructure get its label. That is increasingly a focus of adversaries is, coming onto our home turf and disrupting our way of life and the things that we rely on, right? So when I think of cybersecurity, I'm not just thinking about the bits and the bytes. I'm thinking about the people that it's protecting, the seniors who have worked a lifetime for certain retirement and savings and are looking to rest and don't want their money taken advantage of or stolen by adversaries. I'm thinking about, older relatives that are relying on different medical technology, right? That shouldn't have that disrupted by hackers or adversaries that can get access to these technical devices, right? That are now also internet connected. So, I could go on and on about what comes to mind behind cybersecurity, and a lot of it includes the faces, even small business owners, right, that have put so much capital and sweat equity and the like into their businesses and making sure that they're protected, right, from these adversaries. So yeah, I it's great when I've heard, people come back that I've frankly, forgotten that I necessarily had a conversation with them, where they've come back and said, "Hey, Tina, I just got my first job in cybersecurity. Thank you so much for sending me that, referral, or what, like, gosh, like that feels so good. Like yeah, it just feels like the toil is worth it, right? The building to get certain experiences, to get in certain rooms, to have certain doors open to me, positioning me to open them for other people and to provide opportunity. Like I'm almost tearing up now, but that's yeah, it's worth it. That makes it worth it. Yeah. And that's what I want to be known for. That's how I want my love for others to manifest. Yeah.
You're gonna get me
Mhm.
going.
Yeah, I know,
I promised I
right?
wasn't gonna cry.
I know.
That is
We're
so
not doing good,
inspirational.
Josh.
You have always been an inspiration to me, and I love what you're doing, and I hope that others who are hearing this and watching this, I hope that you find inspiration in Tina's story as well, because I know that I do. Thanks again, and thank you for tuning in to this episode of Security Market Watch. I'm your host, Josh Bruning. You can find me also on LinkedIn, linkedin.com/Josh Bruning, or shoot us an email at info@smwpodcast.com. Thank you so much for tuning in. Bye. All right, Tina, that was great. That was awesome.